Welcome to Series 7 of the Digg Podcast, and I am your host, Caroline O'Neill. In this series, I am talking to business owners, entrepreneurs and experts who are sharing their journey and preparing us for the future. What does the working world look like in the future? It changes every week, every day, every hour. So tune in each week as I ask my guests how they are future-proofing their business. Welcome to the Digg Podcast. Today on the podcast, I am speaking to Brendan McDowell. He owns the global beauty brand BPerfect, and he also is the co-founder of Voduz Hair. So a lot of people listening will already know those brands, but do you really know the man behind them all? We're going to find out about him today. BPerfect is stocked in over 2,000 stores all over the UK and Ireland. And if I say anything wrong here, Brenton's right beside me. He can check me after. But I was doing a lot of reading up about him before we even had our call, and what he has achieved and his business story is definitely one that needs shared, widely, and that's what the Digg Podcast does. There's 6 flagship stores and plans for 10 more. He's launching in Dubai before October, and there's a new range coming in Primark and Pennys. One of his products is the best-selling product on the lingus airlines at the minute. He is also the hair care brand Voduz, which I mentioned. His business has increased by 70% in the last year. We're going to find out how that happens and how do you manage that. Brenton never stands still in business, and he doesn't claim to know it all. That's why I love chatting to him. He told me if he sees a new trend, he learns what he needs to learn and he jumps right on it. I think that's so important in business, not to stand still. He's prepared to change as his business grows, and we're going to talk about that more in our conversation today. And he talks about stepping stones, and I think that's really important for people who are listening, that it doesn't all just happen at once. There's different processes along the journey and different things that happen that creates this kind of this success that Brenton talks about. So we're going to get to grill him today. I want to know how he sleeps at night. I don't know if he does, but like many of us, and it was so lovely to hear this, he's inspired and encouraged by his parents and their journey, and he speaks about the passing of his daddy. And all of those life events happen to us all, and they can throw the curveballs in business for sure. The conversation with Brendan is about growing a brand, and we'll talk about TikTok. So that can be a big fear factor among a lot of businesses. The TikTok growth and phenomenon that's happening, and how it's changed his business dramatically. So that's my introduction, but there's no one better to tell it than Brenton himself, and he's sitting right beside me. So thank you so much, Brenton. This is not an early start probably for you, but 8 o'clock we're here in Waterman House in Belfast. So thank you for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Oh my goodness, no, it's an honour. And sometimes when you reach out to people, you never know whether they're going to say yes, but you just come straight back. I was like, I'll do that surely. So I appreciate you being here. Brendan, I was reading all the news articles that are posted about you, about your early days and the startup journey, but there'd be people listening to the Digg Podcast that don't know that. So take us right back to the very start when you had £500 that you talked about.
Yeah, no problem. I started off very humble beginnings. I've always worked from when I was 11, worked in a fish factory for £1.80 an hour when I was 11 years of age, because I wanted to buy a horse. And my daddy said to me, you don't get anything handed to you, you have to work hard. And turned 30, decided I want to start a business. I had a lengthy sales career, and I always wanted to sell something for myself, because my dad, he was a builder. He was digger man, lorry driver, a jack of all trades, and he started his own business when he was in his, he just turned 40, and he passed away when he was 43, and he was always the person that everybody wanted to do their jobs. He was always really good at any sort of construction work that he'd done. And I was kind of like in the sales game. I was always top salesperson in anywhere that I worked, but I always kind of wanted to do my own thing, but I had no money, no experience, no business experience, apart from that little bit that I learned from my dad with his digger. And I decided to start a business. I was working for a Daily Deals website at the time. I said, "One week, come on, we're going to London and I'm going to start a business." And I was always coming up with this madness, and Mum was like, "Yep, I'll go with you, no bother." But she's probably thinking, what's he going on about now? We went, it was the Pro Beauty Show in London, and at the time when I was working for the Daily Deals companies, I worked with a lot of beauty companies, beauty salons, and I knew there was a gap in the market for good demo products. We went around the trade show and I basically bought anything that you could do a demonstration with. My vision was to be this live demonstrator, market trader, going around the country selling a JML live, and brought this bag of stuff home. And my mummy loved the eyebrow thing that we had. It had the stencil, put the stencil on, coloured it in, and it gave the perfect eyebrow. But within that bag there was hair removal pads, there was nail extension things, big bag of nonsense, to be honest. And I went round all my friends and they were like, "Brendan, you're tapped, you're not wise, what are you doing?" And they were all kind of laughing, because that was just me. I was always that person, I want to do this, I want to do that. And a lot of it, and I think that's where a lot of people, you start these things and you don't always think it's going to become something. But if you don't have that kind of ambition and that kind of creativity, you're never going to do anything. I've tried multiple different things throughout the years, but the eyebrow thing, the guy that I bought it off, he was from Wales. I met him in London, and the week after he was in Dublin, and I drove down and met him and I bought 50 eyebrow kits off him. And I went to the Kennedy Centre in West Belfast, just off the Falls Road, rented the space for 2 days, bought a table out of B&Q, and we sold out of the 50 eyebrow kits. And that's how I started.
And whenever, I know it's emotional to talk about your daddy, but him passing at 43, it's I can't even imagine us so young to pass away. What age are you now?
That's the scary part. I'm 42 next summer. Yeah,
and you're in the prime of your life, and your daddy, he had started his business, and I get emotional even listening to it. And I know I told you this on the call, my daddy drives a digger, and that's why this is the Digg podcast, and Digg Mama and Digg everything's digging me. But we're all moulded by our parents, and you want to impress them and inspire, they inspire you, but you want to make them proud. And I'm sure your daddy is looking down now and so proud. He's probably thinking, what's he doing something beside that? What is he at this morning? But you get it from, sometimes you get that grit and determination from what you've seen when you were growing up, but also it's inside you too sometimes, isn't it? So
big time.
You talk about going with your gut. Whenever I talked to you on the phone when we were prepping for the podcast, you went over there to England with your mummy because something in your gut told you wanted that wee bit more. So there'll be people listening and it's in their gut, but they haven't taken the step yet. What would you say to them that are listening?
Just do it, because you might get it wrong and it might not work out. Just don't take big risks. But if your gut's telling you to do something, just go for it.
And you said don't take big risks there, and we talked about that as well. I think that's because sometimes people who have got success or are very successful in their businesses, people can watch them and maybe we speak flippantly about, taking risks and stuff, but don't put all your eggs in one basket either. You talked about have other...
Yeah, I was always very... if everybody's different, some people start a business and there's no set rules. Some people go and get a big bank loan and they'll start a business and they'll throw all at it. For me, I started off with my wages, and it was £500 extra commission that month from the sales job. So I always seen it as my money, even though it was the business's money, and it always is. But I took the first 50 kits that I sold, I put that straight back in and bought another 100 kits, and then the week after bought 200. So I've always been very much about taking loads of small calculated risks, and that's worked for me. I'm probably the type of person that likes to sleep at night without taking huge risks. And sometimes I've taken bigger ones here and there, but I always know that it's not going to floor me. So, you'll take your small calculated ones and then you might take medium-sized ones, but I've never went and got throw all in and take this gamble. But there's people have, and it's worked out, but there's many people that haven't, and it hasn't worked for them. So there's different strokes for everybody.
I know, because I talk to a lot of people who have a side hustle of the thing they really want to do, but they can't take the leap of faith to actually leave their job, for example.
That was me. I did my job I was still employed for a year. So for the first year, I literally did it in the evenings and the weekends, just driving around the shopping centres and trade shows. So I was that person, and I got to the end of that first year. And I remember my mum's always, she'll kill me for saying this, but she's a real warrior. And she's like, you've got a good job, don't be giving up that job. And I was like, Mum, I've made more money in the side hustle this year, and I can see it going here, I can see it going there. And our parents always want the best for us, but my mum's always a big warrior, and I was like, Mum, I have to go for this, And I can remember booking, I think it was the first trade show in Dublin, and it was like £2,000. When we couldn't sleep that night, she was like, oh, but Jesus, you're spending all that money in that trade show. But you have to, I knew if I'd spent the money in the trade show and it didn't work out, I still have more money to put back into stock and whatever else. So yeah, for me, it's calculated risks all the way.
Yeah, and that's so interesting to hear. And sometimes family, if you listen to family, yes, they want the best for you, but sometimes that can hold you back.
100%, yeah. I would still be in the candy centre doing eyebrows if I was listening to Mommy.
I know.
But she's also kept me grounded.
Yes.
So there's the pros and cons to both. My mum's kept me grounded the whole way through, which is a definite pro.
And I've spoken to people also who'll be on the series when we're doing the prep call, and they've talked about speaking to people outside of your family, but who are like mentors type thing, about making those next steps every time. Would you find that something?
Oh, big time. I would have spoke to a lot of other business owners. I would have listened to a lot of podcasts. And back in the early days, it was more probably books. Like I was obsessed with Dragon's Den. Obviously, went on to it.
Oh, we're going to talk about that, right? So talk to us about Dragon's Den then.
Well, I'd read all their books. I was obsessed with the show. Dragon's Den was about 4 or 5 years into the business. Had basically been a market trader, was driving around, had sold my car, bought a van, was selling out of the van, going around cow shows, horse shows, beauty shows, wedding shows, you name it. Anywhere there was volume of people, I was there with a stall selling. And I got to the stage where we went to, it was a beauty show in Belfast, and one of the dragons from the RTE one was there, Eleanor, and she bought the products, and everybody's like, that's Eleanor from RTE, and I hadn't actually seen the RTE one. I'd only been watching the BBC one. I was like, get her over here, and I get a picture of her. And I was like, get over here, you do, get a picture. And then I was like, she bought them products. I wonder would, like, she let me on her show. So I went home and I Googled it, and I filled in the application form. And it all happened really, really quick. Like, they said it was going to take 6 months and maybe a year before it went on the TV. Within seeing her at the beauty show, I think within 3 months it was on the TV. In the north of Ireland, we were already in, I think, Medicare, Gordon's, loads of independents. In the south, we were in loads of independent pharmacies. We were opening probably about 10 accounts a week in the south, so the south was starting to really pick up for us. But then overnight from Dragon's Den, all of the groups in Southern Ireland took the brand in. But I kind of knew we created a wave, and I knew I had to stay on it, so I had to have a plan B after that. So...
But you got the investment from them, but then turned it down. This always blows my mind, because when I see people do it, I'm like, what? But then the Digg Podcast needs your help. Did you know that we have thousands of people download the podcast each week, but still people haven't subscribed or followed on the channel? So I'm asking you, if you listen on Apple or Spotify, if you could hit follow. If you listen on YouTube, then hit that subscribe button. It means that I can reach out to even more guests, bring even more actionable advice that can help you in your business. The business head on you, it was too much. They were looking too much for what? Is that what the story was?
Yeah, I got like a double offer. So the two guys, two of the dragons came together, and then another one. So 3 out of the 4 had made an offer. And on the show, I was like, yeah, this is brilliant. And like, yes, you know, you're all excited. And I remember being... I get nervous. Like, I'm even nervous sitting here. Like, always get really nervous.
Are you nervous sitting there?
Yeah, just before I speak. I'm fine once I get started.
Yes,
but at the show, it was really weird. I was like, were you nervous, Brendan? And I wasn't. And I can't describe it because I built the brand literally from scratch. And you see people on the show that always trip up in the questions. And in my head, it was like, there's not one question you can ask me that I don't know, because I've done everything myself, from development to sourcing to manufacturing to selling to demonstration days. You name it, I done it all, knew the numbers inside out. The hardest part was, you come in, you're in the RT1, you're in a broom cupboard and you have to pretend you're in a lift. I'd have to act.
Really? Is that
yeah, and I was like, oh God, and I felt really awkward. And it was me and my friend Nicole, she would have done the trade shows with me, and there's me and her in this broom cupboard with this camera down on us pretending we're going up in a lift, and I was like, oh, this is terrible. And then there's one bit where you have to come in, you have to walk up to the line, look at the dragon and walk back. It was obviously for them to record it. My nerves was going crazy, but as soon as I got the line the second time and started talking, I wasn't nervous at all. It was fine. But yeah, after the show, I met them, and they had this contract in one size, and I'm not the most intellectual, and I was like, oh my God, I don't even understand half the words in this contract, and it kind of made me feel a bit uneasy, and I was like, what am I signing here? And then I was like, don't even look at the contract, just ask them questions. So I was like, what's your plans? Where are you taking the business? What do you want to do? And their thing was Ireland. You know, let's get the brand trending in Ireland. Let's get the into all the pharmacies, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm opening 10 accounts a week in Southern Ireland. We're in the 2 big groups in the north of Ireland. I'm kind of doing this already. And I was like, this isn't really exciting me. And I was like, I wanted to hear, we're going to help you with your e-commerce. We're going to help you with growing markets, emerging markets. And there was none of that. And I was like, no, it's just isn't feeling right. There's this big, massive contract. And probably if it was 2-3 months before I went on Dragon's Den and I got that offer, I probably would have taken it, because we hadn't started in wholesale at that stage. And I started the wholesale myself. I went and I sold my soul to Colin and Medicare.
Tell us about selling your soul, because businesses are listening and we have to sell our soul daily sometimes, and you feel someone destroyed. How did you sell your soul?
It was the first group that we went into, Northern Ireland Medicare, and I can remember we went into, I was working in Ballymena, and me and Nicole, my friend, we were on the mall, like people stopping, like we used to be at the front of the stall chasing people up and down the shopping centre. That was really selling your soul. Nobody had a clue. We didn't do any marketing. It was just a heavy demo product that we had. We didn't even really have a brand. The wee tuck shop always said BPerfect. And yeah, it was out the front, like chasing people, come on over and try this, come on over and try this, like real direct, heavy selling. And I remember that day in Ballymena, says to Nicole, I'm going to go out and try a few beauty salons here and see if they'll take it in. Rang about 8 beauty salons around Ballymena area, and 5 of them took it in on the day. And there were £300 to £500 orders. And I was like, I stood there all day, and we'd be lucky if we were lifting 400 or 500. We'd lift it like over £2,000 in the day. Like, and I was like, they're going to repeat by. So I had no clue about wholesale. When I say I started off from the beginning, like I hadn't a baldy about anything. So did that. Then,
just to jump in, when you having a baldy, you just talk like me. You having a baldy, family doesn't know what that means. I mean, not a notion. You didn't have any idea. But when you didn't have a baldy, is that guts to ask? Like when you don't know, how do you find out?
Teach yourself.
Yes.
You know, I just rang these salons. I from working in my previous job, it was just a ringing, getting a meeting on the phone. So I was just the getting in, and I always knew the hardest thing with selling is to get the meeting. So I was just ringing up, keeping it short and sweet on the phone, knocking into too much detail and getting out and getting that meeting booked. So it was kind of always quite cute that way from a sales perspective of getting in front of the person. So I used my old sales techniques to get in front of the salons. Once I got out there, I knew I had really good products, did the demonstration the way that we did on the mall, and they were blown away by the products because they were really good demo products. So the eyebrow, you held the stencil up.
Oh, I had one, don't worry. Yeah. My mum had one.
And then we had the brush on lashes and the 10-second hand. Once you get out in front, they then bought it in. So that's that. When I seen that, then I stepped back and I was like, right, okay. And we had 70 or 80 events booked that year, and I was like, do I really need to do all this when I can start doing this wholesale that we were doing? Went a few then independent pharmacies, and then I went, I'm going to try and crack one of these big boys. And I went for Medicare at the time because Gordon's were like, they were the biggest. I was like, I'll go in the second biggest with Medicare. And I remember going out to Colin, and Colin's a character. Anybody in the beauty world or the pharmacy world will know what Colin's like. He drives a hard bargain, and I get out there and he grilled me. And I mean grilled me, and I held my own. And I remember at the time Colin was always saying at the end of the meeting, you know, there's something about you. And he took us in, put us into 8 stores. I went to them 8 stores myself, brought the product in, met all the staff, did the demo day, and came back. So when I say I literally did everything, I did everything. I sold my soul. I did the demonstration to the staff, I did the demonstration to the customers, and merchandise. So that was our first group that we got into. And then off the back of that, we started, Gordon's actually contacted us when they seen us in Medicare. So yeah, that's kind of how it went.
And whenever we were chatting, you talked about key moments in time that have created this. That was a key moment then, obviously, like a turning point.
It was a turning point from trade shows and shopping malls just on the street into wholesale. And then that was kind of like a pinnacle moment. And then after that, it was Dragon's Den, which turbo boosted that in the south.
And it was the PR really around Dragon's Den that rather than you actually getting the deal, which was interesting.
Can remember there was somebody at the time, it was like, I don't know if you remember, it was like this thing you put in your hair. There was another company, Aurora Hairband, and they at the time told me they put it in. They said, Brendan, you've got 6 to 12 months with the everybody knowing about you in Dragon's Den, because back then Dragon's Den was massive. When you get on there, it was huge for your business. And they said, you've got this amount of time, you know, you've got to keep on the thing. So in the back of my head is going, what am I going to do after this? Like, I need to do something else. And I wanted to create an eyeshadow palette, and that led to the next kind of pinnacle moment. I had no clue about eyeshadow. I was like, what am I doing here? So contacted Louise, LMD, makeup artist in Macclesfield. Says, Louise, look, do you want to do an eyeshadow palette together? And we were one of the first ever brands to collaborate, probably were the first, with an Instagrammer. And got up, met Louise, sat around the table in Macclesfield, depotted all these eyeshadows, put them all together, back and forward with different samples from the factory, and we brought out the LMD palette, and that went cuckoo. It went crazy. We had, I ordered 12,000 units, and we thought that was going to last us for the entire Christmas period. We launched it in September. They sold out in about a week, like not even, probably a few days.
And actually, a lot of the guests that I speak to mention Louise as an influencer, like Polish London, and you know, all the different, and that power of collaborating with someone who's active on social media is huge, isn't it, Brendan? Like, I mean,
a massive part of the business for us, you know, working with the right person at the right time with the right product. I see so many, like, they were called bloggers then, they weren't even called influencers. And I've been on that journey, and I've seen it from the early blogging days, and us did sponsor posts. Like Somi was the first person we ever paid for a sponsor post. Now she's a full makeup brand, and me and Suzanne laugh at, like, God, do you remember you were the first person ever did a post for BPerfect? And I've seen the whole industry change so much. Like, just in the last 10 months, it's changed drastically with TikTok. You just need to be on it, and you need to make sure you're working with the right people at the right time, and change it whenever you need to, because social media changes so fast. You need to be at the speed of it, otherwise your data, and you see a lot of, like, bigger businesses coming in now, and they're paying these influencers stupid money, and they're doing things that probably aren't the right, working with people that aren't the right fit and whatever else, and kind of can spoil it for everybody. But if you know who you're working with, the right influencer, the right time, it 100% works amazingly for your business.
Because traditional businesses are only starting to even consider this now, and me and you have been, like, well, I've been doing social media for years from the very start, but the power in it when it's done, this is the new way to advertise. People trust the people they follow online, and
word of mouth.
It is, and it's
if you've got the right
got the right person.
Yeah.
So you can't just jump in, like you would get. I know, like, because I do both sides of works, like influencer marketing as well. And you would get pitches from brands like, "Will you send us through your stats?" And I'm thinking, even if you said yes to me, I wouldn't say yes to that because that's not right for me. So obviously Louise knows her audience too, and knew that you were the right fit. So I suppose to businesses that are listening that haven't embraced influencer marketing, like even the most corporate businesses can make the most out of influencer marketing now. You know, like there's someone out there nearly can be a brand ambassador or represent you if they have your audience. So go find out more about that, really, is probably the message there, and see who does fit with you and align with you. Like, is there TV advertising in your marketing now? Is there? Did
last year when we launched Chroma. So our foundation launch last year, we'd spent 2 years creating that product. So it was by far the biggest ever launch that we ever had. So we did a little bit of TV and a little bit of billboard, but it's so hard to track. You don't know the success from that. There's a lot of people say, "Oh, I've seen your TV ad," but for us, it's influencer marketing, and social media is 95-99% of what we do. So, but we have tapped into the other things just to try and especially,
well, you can definitely see the, like, BPerfect and Voduz is everywhere online, and everyone's, you know, in the right way, promoting it, doing great content and stuff, and that's definitely been a big part of the growth. Talk to us about TikTok now. So you mentioned it there, and because I do a lot of mentoring with businesses, the fear factors there that they're going to have to be this character on TikTok or do these creative videos and things. Talk to us about TikTok.
So there's two elements to me, for me. TikTok this year has probably been the massive contributor to us having 71% growth year on year, which is huge at the size of the business. So for me, TikTok shop launched last July, and we hadn't a clue about it. We're like, what the hell is this? And I was a bit skeptical of it as well. I was like, is that going to take away from our website? Do you know, it's a third-party platform, so you don't own the data, you don't own the email address, you don't own the phone number. And I was like, oh God, well, let's jump on it, but let's not jump on it again, me taking calculated risks. But it was one that worked. Our sales on TikTok, like we've sold hundreds of thousands of products on TikTok shop alone. But the marketing that we've had from all the creators in TikTok has driven our online as well. And what we've done is we try and keep the offering different from TikTok shop. We'll do a different offer to our website, and to our retail stores we'll do it different again. So our consumers are getting something different everywhere they go, and that's what you want. You want to keep the element of surprise there. So there's that side of it. In terms of the business side and the content that you're creating for our business, we like to keep it just really relatable. A lot of it's just the girls having fun and the boys having fun in the office, and it's a bit of banter, and that's what people want to see. A year ago, people would have said TikTok's only for brand awareness. TikTok now sells, you know, and you'll find with the creators on there, they're probably more powerful now than Instagram, because the Instagrammers, the algorithm doesn't work in your favor anymore. So somebody might have a huge following on Instagram, putting something out there, and it's not getting seen as much as what somebody with a smaller following in TikTok will put out, but it's just getting seen by a lot more people because the algorithms are very different. Even me personally, I've set up the BPerfect branding page. I was like, oh, I'm not going on doing these funny dances and whatever else. And I can remember in lockdown, I cringe even thinking about it. I'd made these like TikToks and me like doing this stupid singing shit and all, and I deleted them. I was like, oh, cringe. And I thought I had to be that person. And then I was watching a few people, and I was just like, record yourself like you're on Instagram stories. And I just started being myself and just having the chats. And my own personal TikTok has really exploded over the last 2 months. I think we've like 5,000, sorry, it's up to 10,000 creators on board for BPerfect. And my sales are up in the top 10 already, and that's only within 2 months. So it can grow really quick. A video can go viral really quick. Your following can grow really quick, and the creators' content will get seen. We're now sitting, if you Google hashtag BPerfect, we've 250 million views, which is insane. So it's massive. When I say it's massive, and the reach that you have, like, and I even noticed now, early days, I did BPerfect brand on Snapchat, and I was like, oh, I've seen you on Snapchat, and then it was Instagram, and then it was the TV show, but now it's just all TikTok, Brendan. I'm seeing your TikToks because they're getting seen by so many people. What you have in TikTok is huge followers, people on the platform watching it, but less creators. So when you're putting content out, a lot more people are seeing it than what you would on Instagram and Facebook, etc.
Wanted to take a short break at the Digg Podcast. If you're a woman and you're listening to the podcast and you would like to return to work, maybe you've taken time off for caregiving duties, whatever the reason, I know it can be daunting and overwhelming. That's why Timely Careers, who is our sponsor for the podcast, is a fantastic resource for you. It's a free resource for you to tap into. It helps with training, CV planning, skills training, and so much more to help you embrace that prospect of getting back to work in a way that suits you. It has lots of jobs on the platform, employers who are looking someone just like you, someone highly trained, wanting to be a valuable member of the team. So if you would like to find out more about how Timely Careers can support you to get back to work in a flexible way that suits you and your needs, then check out timelycareers.com and get together with the people that can help you be the best version of you. Everybody's away setting up their TikTok account now that's listening, but like I'm even following a lot of corporate businesses now who I've seen starting to show up on TikTok, showing the behind the scenes culture of their office. Who's brilliant?
Have you ever seen Ryanair on it?
Yes, Ryanair, yes.
They are like within the leaders of corporate world. Like they do it so well. They do it so they're really sarcastic on it, and it just suits them. You know, it's finding the style that works for you is the best way to do it. Yes,
and I suppose that type of mindset is really the right way to be looking at all your social platforms, finding content that suits you and creating it consistently.
Trial and error, put some content out, and if it works, do more of it.
And if you cringe, delete it like you did.
Delete it. Yeah.
I know, and that's like nothing's, you know, you don't have to go. I think people have this fear, they have to go live and they have to do all these things, but you don't. You can delete that. You can.
My favourite saying is just wing it, you know, and that's it. With business, to me, like there's things you just have to wing. You just have to go for it. Take a risk. If it doesn't work out, as long as it's not a big massive one, just wing it, go for it. And if it doesn't work out, delete it. And And yeah, you have to try things to know what works for you, and more importantly, what works for your audience.
Yeah. And what's been like throughout all of that, like that's huge growth, like we're talking Dubai now, and do you ever go like, do you ever pinch yourself and say
yeah, no, we had big international growth a few years ago, and we went out with probably the wrong products. We went out, Carnival went massive for us, like the Carnival palette, and it's still a huge seller for us, but makeup styles changed and it went very different. And then what we done is brought out more, obviously your core, your day to day, your makeup for your mum doing the school run, your girl going to work and stuff like that. And like when we went out internationally years ago, we didn't have a core makeup range, so we're now going back to these retailers with a much better selection of makeup. So the international stuff's amazing, but most of our growth has actually been in the UK and Ireland.
What's been the biggest challenge throughout all of this? Or maybe there's been a few, but I mean, is there anything that stands out where you think, or you thought, oh my God, I can't do this anymore, or this is too hard, or?
I remember saying to you on the phone, I've taken a mind blank.
I don't even know if you did say it to me on the phone. I'm just listening to you now and going, I wonder, was there a time where you're like, I don't know if I can do this now, or this is too hard for me?
People, you know, sometimes it can be hard. Going through growth, you need to recruit a lot of people. And sometimes that can be challenging. Luckily, I think one of the strongest assets that you can have in business is being a good people person. If you're not a good people person, you won't have good people around you to build your business. You know, there's only so much you can do in your own. And that's probably one thing I see a lot of people doing is, I was chatting to somebody yesterday, they had a small business and they were like, I'm scared to recruit, I'm scared to take somebody on. I was like, but you cannot scale, you cannot grow unless you have people that you can trust and rely on. And sometimes things go wrong with people, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But if you don't have trust and you don't have a good team, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's probably been some of the hardest challenges, is getting the right people when you're going through that big growth. And at the moment, we're going through huge growth. And I feel like sometimes there's an element of luck. I've touched lucky with a lot of the managers that I've just recruited. They're really strong, really experienced. But in the past, there has been times when we've recruited and it hasn't been right. And sometimes it's just the wrong person for the role. Sometimes people pull the wool over your eyes in interview. And one of the hardest things, like I can't sack people, like I am shit at it, like I am awful. I go into this deep space of like, oh, what about their family? What about their friends? What are they going to do? Like that is one of the hardest things I find. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest challenges.
Do you get somebody else to do it?
I've had to do it myself sometimes, but I don't like doing it. And I have at the minute nowadays I have a senior team there, so I kind of like work with obviously the leadership team and the management team more so. But I'll go out and work in the shops. Like somebody was laughing. We had a warehouse clearance last year, and they were laughing because I was on my hands and knees cleaning the floor. Like there's nothing that I won't do. You know, I'll still get out there and get stuck in with everybody to do absolutely anything in the business because I did it all from the beginning. But yeah, that's probably one of the hardest challenges was getting the right people at the right time.
You're you can see that softness in you there when you were talking about, you know, that's so lovely to see, because sometimes you think of people with such success that they're maybe hardened to the world and hardened to people, and they're not people.
I couldn't be a person. I'm very some people have said to me in the past, Brendan, you can't be so nice all the time. And I'm like, do you know what? It's different strokes, different folks. Some people are that heavy hitting, hard business person. They're ruthless. They'll walk over the top of people. It's just not me. And you can be a really nice person in business, and there's loads of really nice people in business. People think business people are these big, hard, strong, like walk over the top of you people, and there is a lot of them out there. But for me, being nice and communicating with other people and networking with other business owners, you know, even like my competitors, I would chat to them on the regular, and you learn from each other. There's enough room out there for everybody, and people think you have to be guarded. I always remember, it was donkeys ago, it was probably 11 years ago, there was this person who did the trade shows, and they were very guarded, and I come on the scene. They sold a beauty product, and I sold a beauty product. Day and night, totally different products. And this person at the time used to always like, don't talk to him, blah blah blah. Where I'd have been like, here, do this show in England, it's really good, do that. That person is still driving around their car with the same stand, doing the same thing, selling the same product. If you're like that, you're not going to grow. I think if you're a wee bit nice, chat to other people, you network with other people, it comes back to you and you'll grow. If you're guarded and you don't want to talk to people, you don't want to recruit people, and you aren't a people person, that's the big thing. It'll stall you. You know, you will struggle to grow if you don't speak to the right people and grow the right people around you.
So true. Oh my God. And if everybody got like that, flip me, it would be unreal. But do you ever, be talking to somebody and rightly they know the answer to the question that you're looking, but they're not going to tell you?
Hold back.
Oh my, I read so much.
Open person ever. I'm like,
I
do this, do that.
I know, but I think like you don't know till you know. And if you don't ask, first of all, they're never going to tell you. But if you don't tell somebody and help them,
you're not going to get it back.
You're not like, and I think that's a big, I've had recently just a few experiences with that where I'm like, rightly, but I'm asking you and you won't tell me.
I'm a firm believer in what you put out, you get back. So I've always been very open. If somebody asks me, Brendan, how do you do this? How do you do that? I don't guard it at all, because guess what? When I need to know the next question to somebody else, to something, and I ask somebody, they're going to give me that back, and you learn, you network, and you'll never stop learning.
I don't know if you can learn that though. Is that not in you to be that type of person? That
has to be in you, but you can never stop learning anything from other people. Networking, and I always think your brain's like a sponge, and I love listening to people and learning from people. And there's never, like, I don't know all the answers. Far from it. I still make loads of mistakes. Everybody does, but that's business. You make a mistake, you fix it, and then you move on, and that's the biggest thing for me.
I know. Oh my God, I know. I could talk to you all day. What about this whole series of Series 7? I mean, you laughed at this on the phone, is about the future. So the future of work, the future of business, and everybody is talking, Brandon, about AI. And it's actually really funny. I was talking to a girl there one day who's not in this space at all, and I was talking about AI. She goes, what the hell is AI? That's that abbreviations of people use when they're talking, and you assume people know. So artificial intelligence and how that's going to change how we do business. And me and you laughed our heads off on the phone. You're like, I haven't a notion. And I said, I know, neither do I really, but I'm trying to learn. But what's your thoughts on all of that, and the beauty industry and AI? And
I'll be honest, you would probably think me, with being all over social media, would know a lot about it. All I know, it's a wee filter thing in the top of Snapchat at the minute it comes up your AI. Haven't looked too much into it. As soon as I see, it was like TikTok shop, as soon as I seen people on it, I jumped on it really quick. So at the minute, they don't think anybody's using it for anything in the beauty world. For me, I haven't seen anybody doing anything massive with it yet. But as soon as something happens and somebody else maybe is the first person to do it, I'll jump all over it.
Like, I see robots using BPerfect products on TikTok and stuff in the future. Who knows what it's going to be like? Like, people are scared a wee bit at the minute, and then that makes them hold back. But
see, if you told me, it was, what are we in now, September? Last July, TikTok shop launched. If you told me last July the TikTok shop was going to be humongous and drive 71% growth in your business, I would have laughed at you and went, not a chance. And there we are, 12 months later, it's completely changed the game. So
it's about having an open mind for what's coming our way, because it's coming anyway.
Open to AI and open to anything, and as soon as something starts, that's the big thing for me, I suppose, is another thing in business. Like, when I employ somebody, I'm like, do you like change? And if they say no, I'm like, you're in the wrong business, because we're constantly evolving and changing, and that's something I love. And most of the community that I've built, our internal people and our community, our followers and stuff, they see us changing, they see us evolving. I love change. I love evolving and learning and growing and jumping up the steps. You're not going to jump up the steps if you don't change. You're going to stay in the same place.
I know, and sometimes people are just afraid of change because it means uncertainty and the unknown, and what if it doesn't work? But if you're standing still, you're not growing.
Exactly.
Okay, so next year, will you come back on and tell us about the growth, because you've now got robots selling for you on
robots and TikTok.
On TikTok. I definitely will be getting you back next year to hear about all of that. But good luck with everything. I've never met you before until just this morning, so it's lovely to see meet the real person, because sometimes you see people on social media, you feel like you know them, and then
I said you on the phone, was like,
have we ever met?
Because when you follow somebody online, you think that you've met them, and then you're going, was I at an event with them, was I not? You know?
I know. Yeah. So no, we haven't, but it was lovely this morning just to be able to kind of see people in real life, because sometimes social media, that is lost as well, and you can't lose that.
Oh, it's a big thing for me. That's why we do so many like events, just bringing people together. Like, even with the TikTokers, I get over to London next week to take them all out for dinner, all our top sellers on there. I think it's good to have that face-to-face communication. I love social media, but I love having people around me as well.
And it's about people at the end of the day. People are what makes a business as well. So thank you so much for being on the Digg Podcast. Can't wait to see what happens. What does your mummy say now, by the way?
Yeah, she's still trying to hold me back, but she still keeps me grounded. So nothing's really changed there. So it's still the same from day one. She's always like panicking if I take any sort of risks. But she still keeps me grounded.
I know, they're the best at whenever I was coming down here this morning, I was like up at 5 and away at 6, and my mum was like, your daddy was asking me, what is that you're doing? And I was like, I've been doing the podcast for like 3 years. But they're always there to support you, and I know your daddy's looking down on you now today, and it's unreal, your journey, and you're such an inspiration to everybody. So I hope everybody on the Digg podcast has loved listening to you. I know they will. We get lots of feedback about our guests. I'm sure everybody's going to be away opening their TikTok accounts if they haven't already. Thank you for being our guest today, Brandon.
No problem. Thank you for having me.